And I'm gonna switch to Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Crimson and Alexander Punj. We are here for another feedback stream that we're super excited to have. And what we're going to be doing today is going over some of your tracks and giving it the critical eye. And we're looking at it from the perspective of a music producer who signed to a bunch of labels like Purified, Zero 03, Immersed as well, and a label owner. And we're going to understand a little bit of what a label owner wants and what exactly should you be sending to Immersed Recordings, along with what are the expectations from the industry and some industry secrets that only Alexander knows. So, Alexander, welcome to the stream.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Glad
Let
to be
me,
here.
yeah, we're excited to have you, man. So I just loaded in the first track, so it started playing. But yeah,
Yep.
tell us more about Immersed. Tell us more about what started it. How did you, get into the mindset of wanting to start a label? What was the thing that got you excited about Immersed? And
I graduated from the University of Rochester with a degree in international relations, but my minor was audio and music engineering. So I had a professor who had a Grammy Award and a professor who had two Emmy Awards. And both of these professors in that minor were teaching us about how to use a big recording studio and also sound design and all those things. And we're getting super deep into it. Um, I started a trance label called Newcastle Friends Recordings in 2018. That got some promo from Above and Beyond. Armin van Buuren played it. Paul Van Dyke's managers were super excited about it, but uh, I wasn't loving trance as much after a year, so then I decided to stop it and go into more deep sounds. And I used all the information that I learned from school because I wasn't really into producing at that point because I was just too impatient as like a college student to sit down and write melodies, and I wanted to be participating in the industry. And I said, hey, I'll just start a label. I have this guy from North Carolina who's a great singer and producer. His name's Gambit, and he released the first track. We got some remixes from some of the best Argentinian guys, and then from there, I just really self-taught myself from day one how to run a record label, how to do anything. Um, and I did it while also graduating from a top tier university, which was a feat that my parents, of course, never really appreciated, but it happened, and I'm here now, and 38 million streams later, we're here.
yeah, I think Indian parents are known to be very pragmatic, and they're
I have
all,
an Indian parent and then a Russian parent, so it's double the trouble.
double the trouble. Yeah, I think that like in general, it kind of makes sense to think of things from their perspective, where you're like jumping into this industry where there is no guarantee, right? Like
No,
if you look at tech, if you look at other things, they're all streamlined, organized, and there is a barrier to entry. You need to go to university,
yeah,
learn something, have like a structure. There's a manager, project manager, XYZ, and
yeah.
it's very like streamlined. And then you go into the music scene and the music industry, and it's like, what's going on here? There's just like
It's very disorganized, and you
yeah.
have to figure out exactly what you would like to do. Put in the notes, like a timeline of how you could potentially achieve such a thing, and just keep on working at it day by day, little by little. And one of the things that I recommend this entire stream, everybody who's participating in the stream, is to never really think about a whole picture and just go at it small goals per small goals. Because
Mhm.
I don't even know where the hell I'm going to go with Immersed. I don't even have a dream of Immersed. All I'm doing is like, okay, there's this release that needs to be distributed. I need to get that after the stream. Like that's how I view everything. It's like, okay, that goal is done now. What's the next thing I need to do? And it's so that's why it's consistent, because I'm just taking small chunks and just completing tasks, and then boom, there's lots of success afterwards. It's just a
Yeah.
byproduct of being consistent over and over and over.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest thing is like I think it can be very overwhelming for people, and the more imagine you're like climbing a mountain, right? Like if you're climbing a mountain and you're thinking every day, like every step you're thinking about like, oh man, I'm like 20 kilometers away. I'm like 20 kilometers away. from like getting to the top or like 8 kilometers away, however,
Yeah.
then you're just gonna give up. Like
Oh yeah.
it's inevitable that you're gonna give up. So the main thing you need to do is just put one step forward, and then once you put that one step forward, the next time you're gonna be more confident about your previous step, and
Absolutely. It's like the number one thing for label owners. If you decide after being a producer for a while, don't think about other labels. Don't compare yourself to like internally to another label because it's gonna just look. You're just gonna feel bad because they're gonna have songs that get 500,000 streams, and then your next release on your label will have maybe 100,000. You're saying like, why did they do better? But it doesn't matter because everyone, music is not a competition. At the end of the day, music is just people doing art and trying to create the best art that they can to represent what they want.
yeah, to it, I kind of disagree to for a little bit, but because like of the fact that there's only so many people who can be at the headlining aspect of the lineup. But I do agree that in the start, especially, and when you're starting to go a little bit more towards building your stuff, I think the mindset you should have is like be more collaborative than competitive, because the more collaborative
Yeah.
you are, the better organized you are, the more chances of you succeeding, because other people will support each other. And when you have a group of people just playing out your music, supporting each other and like helping each
Yeah.
other during the down times when your music is not being signed, or maybe
Yeah.
you're not getting to the point in your career where you'd like to, you will be more talking to others will make you realize like, dude, everybody's going through the same problems.
Yep.
It's not just you, so you don't feel
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
alone.
You just gotta be just gotta be humble and work hard and just day by day learn something new or
Mm-hmm.
complete tasks and just keep on moving the needle forward. Even if it doesn't result in anything public,
Mm-hmm.
just keep on moving that needle forward. If you gotta go back
Mm-hmm.
and do some internal administration, just do it.
Yeah.
Things are
So
gonna be tough, things are gonna be difficult. You just gotta keep it up.
yeah, okay, so we covered a lot about the mindset stuff. Now I want to like get into the nitty-gritty of like the exact immersed expectation and label expectations that I feel like a lot of people just kind of don't know, or like
Yep.
there are certain things that like are kind of rumors, or people just aren't confirmed on like what exactly are the
Uh-huh.
expectations of immersed. So okay, imagine that there's a new producer out there. He made a track, right? Or he made a couple tracks,
Uh-huh.
and he wants to send music to you. What is a few things that he can put on his checklist to make sure that when he sends that track to you, you're gonna look at it very favorably, and you're gonna be like, oh, this guy did his research or did some work, or like what do you expect from a person sending you a demo that will make you smile when you open up that email, or even that demo, rather than be like, oh, not one of these again.
So there's a few things. This is gonna differ from a lot of people that run record labels, but I think the first thing is sound. So we don't have like some people say that we have a specific sound, but we definitely don't. What we do, what we want from a record is to fit into some definitions. And one of the great things about this definition is that there are multiple ways to interpret it, and you should be able to be creative with it. So the definition is our music is halfway between dark and light, and halfway between headphones and club music, but as of this year, it's slightly more towards club energy. So those two things are what we're looking for, and we want energetic, euphoric music. And a lot of people end up sending chill tracks, like, oh, this sounds like Lane 8 RP kind of chill tracks or Sultan and Shepherd's latest album type stuff. And that's not what we're looking for, because I personally like to just listen to music that has energy, like Without You by Yourself is a great example of a track that just can be listened to on headphones and also played in the club, but is slightly more energetic than just in between. And so that is what we're looking for in demos. Now, the second thing to note is that they should have the demo email available right away, which is demo@immersedrecordings.com. That's how you can send it to us. That automatically gets sent to all of our A&Rs. That is also available at immersedrecordings.com/demo. And then another thing that they should do is in the email, you should be saying either my name if you know what my name is, or the name of the label. What I get a lot, and which is very annoying, is that they say, I want to be signed to your label. That just makes me feel like you're using a template email and just spamming a bunch of labels. And I don't appreciate that. I want people to just say my name or say the A&R's name or uh or the label name, and that makes me know that it's actually meant for me instead of just a lazy spam of a demo.
That's true. That's interesting though, because I always send music to you, but when I'm like CCing 35 million people, so that's no, I'm
Yeah,
joking.
and I
I'm
also
joking.
highly recommend that people don't message the Immersed Recordings social media accounts. Just email like the demo box
Mhm.
or info@immersedrecordings.com if you have like a non-demo question or anything like that. Just email me because I often just forget uh, any requests that are made through social media.
Yeah, I think also like I think some people don't even streamline like the social media people of a label are not the same
Yeah.
as the people who are dealing with demos and it being the A&R. So it's kind
Yeah,
of like,
yeah.
so it's like there's a disconnect and they have to like forward the thing and they might
Yep.
have so much on their plate. So rather just like find their demos, even especially if it's advertised. Some labels just don't want to hear your music because they'd rather just hear like the music through word of mouth or something, or they're gonna watch up and coming producers, etc. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
question about Immersed. Do you care if a person has released music before, or if the music has been,
No, I
if
don't care. No,
mm,
the number one thing is the music needs to sound polished and good. There have been times where we've spent, oh, I don't know, multiple sessions on Discord chats going through and trying to fix a track. One of the big examples is Jack Willard's Celsius. I believe our friend Phelan played that at the Immersed Showcase,
mm,
and that was I just somebody in a Discord, I think it was Wasu's Discord, just posted a track for feedback. I liked it, and then we just had a conversation in Discord DMs, and just for about a couple of weeks in a row, we go back and forth just fixing it up because I really liked it. So does not matter if the person has released on labels before or not. We were able to take artists and make them a relevant player in the industry. Like once again, he just released a track on Immerse for the first time. That was his first ever track, and it got played by Armin van Buren. So anything can happen. It doesn't matter if you've been big or small.
okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense, and I like that approach. Um, yeah, I think that's a really cool way of looking at things. I think there's a
Yeah,
lot of potential in the new things, new artists, and you never know what kind of gem you discover, right? Like you might find the new above and beyond. Like how do you even like restrict yourself from like trying to find new music?
yep.
With that said, okay, I have one last question before we jump into the demo feedbacks. Is there any character trait or any sort of a commonality that you've noticed between artists who are now becoming successful or like who are up and coming and who show a lot of promise in your opinion?
Commonality.
Yeah, common trait. It could be anything. It could be mindset. It could be type of music. It's like their pattern of releasing on X labels. Should they release on? Are they like releasing on only on one label
So,
consistently?
so you're asking if they've gone what is the commonality from going from small to big? Is that what you're
Yes.
asking?
Yeah, yeah. So what's like
So
a yeah.
I'd say the commonality is the quality of music that has to come out from them. It's this consistency of just the product that they're putting out. That's what really makes an artist go from small to big. Even if you're self-releasing and you're just putting out music just by yourself, if you're not putting out a quality product that people want to listen to again, you're not going to get anywhere. So if you get with a label, that's great. Try to release with them a couple of times and try to build a report, because they'll develop new strategies of promotion around you, like I
Mhm.
have with a couple of artists. So I'd say focus on making quality music, and then afterwards deal with all the rest of the crap that you have to deal with as a producer.
Yeah,
Just focus on that music, because then for me specifically, if you're sending me demos after your first release with me and they're not great, I'm just not going to sign it.
yeah. I think that's the main thing that I keep telling my students as well, is like just make sure you are, you're spending all your time finishing up 12 solid tracks that are ready to
Mm-hmm.
send to labels, and then after the tracks are done, send them to the labels, and then don't be hesitant to work on your socials and working on networking and everything else, because you don't, yeah, like having good music at this point of time has almost become like a baseline level of expectation, right? Like if you don't have good music, if you don't even have good music, like forget it, right?
Yeah.
You need to have good
Yeah.
music and everything else, like everything
Yeah.
else kind of in place. And it doesn't have to be in an inauthentic manner. Doing live streams and recording videos, teaching people music production even
Yeah.
could be a great way of doing
Yeah,
things. So
yeah.
like,
One of the things that I will say about that good music that will actually help you write good music is to, at least I think, find a label that's willing to work with you on a longer term basis. So then you don't have to constantly say like, "Oh, I don't know if this label will take it. I don't know what's happening. I think I might have written a bad track." No, you just have one label that's willing to work with you and grow you as an artist for a specific or undetermined amount of time, and you start figuring out what works, and they'll keep on feedbacking you back and forth, like I do with quite a few of my artists. They just send me stuff in WhatsApp, and I just say, I don't like this, I like this,
mm-hmm,
and here, fix that, and then boom, signed.
mm-hmm,
So I'm able to give them direct feedback, and I know their progression over time, especially with Rebel Asleep. I manage him right now, and I'm just helping him just keep on making better tune after tune after tune. And it just is a great way to actually go from small to big.
yeah, perfect. That's great advice. All right, okay. I think we've talked enough. I think there was a
Yeah.
lot of advice been given. I think we're gonna start diving into music now, and I'm super excited to hear what you have in in store for us in terms of advice, and yeah, we'll move on from there, right?
All
So
right.
so do you have the track loaded? This Broken Glass.
Yes, Sleepy Adam.
Sleepy Adam. All right, guys, we're gonna get into it. The first one by Sleepy Adam. Let's start in three, two, one. Let's go. right. What did you think of that one?
Oh, hold on a second. Yeah. Okay, the intro is a little long. Overall, this track had good elements, but it needs refinement. Especially the bass needs to come down so that pumping bass line, it's very present. I understand that it's kind of like a marsh bass line, but that needs to come directly down in the mix. The volume dB is just straight up. Um, in addition, the hats are a little too loud, so I would bring those down a little bit and use a little EQ to take out some of the high end because it was just a little sharp. From the structural points, I think yes, the intro is a little too long. What you should do is cut that down, and since this is kind of like a radio edit, just cut it down to, I believe you can play with it for maybe 10, 15 seconds and then just go straight into your kicks and your main drop of the main groove. In the breakdown sounded like a completely different song. So what I would do is I would either bring in like the atmospheric elements and move into it, and then like sweep into the guitar if you want to keep it. But right now, it just sounds like a completely different song that doesn't really fit into the track at the moment. So I would change that up. Also, I highly recommend sitting down and figuring out a top line to this track because uh, the second half, which is the main drop, sounds like the first groove, and I'm not a big fan of just copying and pasting the groove to the second part. Would like to hear at least you in the later half of the track create a top line melody. It could be just sprinkles of notes,
Hmm.
like Marsh does sometimes, or an actual top line where you have notes like do 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 or something like that. So you need to figure those things out.
Hmm.
When you figure that out, this track definitely could become a banger.
Yeah, so I think that was you kind of touched on a few points that were really nice. I think one of the main things was like the piano is very resonant. I'm like I could hear it in my like earphones that there's some EQing that needs to be done to get rid of some of the harsh frequencies in the piano. That was one thing. Especially with the reverb piano, you want to do it very you want to do it in a subtle manner where the piano original sound is not being affected, so the dry sound is not being affected too much, whereas you're sending the dry sound to a return channel where you're getting some hall reverb. Talking about the arrangement, I think the one thing that's kind of interesting is like you're kind of trying to incorporate a bunch of styles together. You're trying to incorporate like the grooviness of a tech house track into like a melodic house like chill vibe track. Now you can make it work, but it needs to be very subtle in the sample selection where you need to be a lot
Yeah,
more like the drums. You want to think, right? Like if I'm am I going for a chill vibe or a hype vibe? If you're going for a chill vibe, then you need to make sure you choose all the samples that kind of become cohesive towards adding a chill vibe. So if you're having a very sharp snare, you want to chill it out, have like a snappy, quieter snare, or like a layered clap, which is hitting slightly delayed from the different layers so that you can hear the claps and
yeah, yeah,
individualities, snaps, different things that can make it more chill. But make a decision. If
yeah,
you're going to go for the harder stuff, then maybe reduce the melodics a bit and build more tension where there's more like energy going on, and then break it and then hit like I hit a really high peak of energy at the
yeah,
drop. But in this, it's kind of like you're trying to like do both, and that takes away from both being done well per se, in my
yeah.
opinion. But
I
oh
agree with that.
yeah, I think in all though great ideas. I think really creative with the execution of things. Yeah, the arrangement
Yeah,
could be a little bit more finessed where the intro is not that long because you have to think about it. Like at this point of time, people make a decision to listen to the rest of the song within 5 seconds of listening to a song, right? Even lesser
yeah,
probably. So if you don't have that like immediate hook onto it, and this is like a 3 minute track, which is a radio edit, you need to like think about how you're gonna like bring people into the song immediately so they can like continue listening to it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it is a landscape of the algorithms just really pushing tracks that are immediately getting into the main groove right away, and you can see it with like Unity, even Immersed tracks too, where those radio edit intros are just snappy and oftentimes 1 second, boom, right into the track. Like take a listen to Rebel Asleep, What's Left of Us. It's just 1, 2, 3, boom, groove right away. But if you want a little more melodic intro, take a step from Marsh. He takes it for 10 seconds and then gets into the groove.
Yeah. All right. So that was the first track. Good job, Sleepy Adam. We're gonna move on to Adina, Nova, and Koff's track next up.
Uh-huh.
Let me know if that's loaded up for you.
Bingo.
All right. 3, 2, 1, let's go. just the outro now, so we can stop listening now. Yeah, man. Okay, so far, favorite track right now.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot. How did you feel about that one?
Okay. We all know that EDM, electronic dance music, is built around repetition, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how much repetition is enough?
Mm-hmm.
I think repetition here is the reason why this wouldn't get signed,
Mm-hmm.
at least from my perspective, to
Mm-hmm.
Immersed.
Mm-hmm.
The intro isn't the intro, especially when you get to the first like place at 136 without kicks. There's nothing changing, even though
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is an intro.
Yeah.
It's still going through that rolling bass line on a continuous basis. I was hoping that it would progress a little bit with some extra elements, even if it's not a melody line, just like extra FX
Mm-hmm.
or some plucky like side elements or bringing in some pads or something like that to keep it fresh. Because the tracks that have rolling bass lines, especially the ones from Marius Drescher on Musica, all are progressing over time. And this one seemed to just rely on that rolling bass line as the main thing. Yes, the elements later are fantastic and the drop is fantastic because it's lovely, euphoric,
Mm-hmm.
but that part really does create um,
Like just
some ear
repetitive.
fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah, ear
Yeah.
fatigue. I was also hoping to hear some changes in the bass, the
Mm-hmm.
notes of the bass. So some of the artists that I worked with, they sometimes just bring it down or bring it up in certain cases. So they bring in some extra tension. I would love to hear that as well. Um, I'd love to hear some quieter spots in the second breakdown before you get to the main drop to just give some extra tension. So you rise and you keep on progressing to maybe a snare roll and the at the progression at the drop.
Mm-hmm.
But the drop is fantastic. It's heavy, it's euphoric, and I really like that. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the standout part of the track.
Mm-hmm.
At the after the drop, yeah, it's repeating a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I would either bring in some extra elements
Mm-hmm.
or head towards the breakdown, the ending faster
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh, I think we lost Alex. Anyway, we're gonna wait for him to get back. Maybe he'll be back in like the next 5 seconds or so. But yeah, I'll just mention some of my things. Oh, we're back. Alex is back.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention some of my findings. I think I agree with you on the part that
Yeah.
when it started, the rolling bass line kind of like drove the track, and I was like, oh, this sounds good, and the mix was pretty decent, honestly. I didn't find any issues with the mix, but I think that's where kind of like producers get stuck in, where they're just so focused on making the technicality of the song sound good and sound nice, like the mix sound
Yeah.
good, that they forget about the songwriting aspect of it, or just deprioritize it a little bit, right? And I think
Yeah.
in this song, that's kind of the case that I feel, where there isn't so much tension being built. There's no like, it's not like I'm looking forward to the breakdown or I'm looking forward to the next drop because I've already heard the next drop that kind of happened. So it doesn't even have to be with the elements, big new elements being introduced, where there are some new elements being introduced. It's more like creating crescendos and like making sure that you have like some like modulation within your synthesizers. Like if you're using like a preset, maybe open up the oscillators, like maybe detune the oscillators, try doing some like active modulation and automation to create like a flow. This is progressive house, which means you have to progress the instruments in such a way that it, you know, like things are quiet in the start and then they start slowly open up, and during the last drop it's just the loudest they've ever been, and it's been the most open they've ever been, and now you can hear the full brunt of the whole track, right? There's also a lack of, I think, tension building within 16 bars, and you know, with in between 16 bar loops. So there's a 16 bar loop happens, and then I've I've seen like the kick go away, and I've seen like something go away, but it's not super noticeable. So maybe like adding more effects during those 16 bar, intervals where you're like switching to another 16 bars, have more tension being built at that point. That also adds to the energy. If you're using rolling bass line, you're thinking I'm going high energy in the club, right? Like this is like a track that will be higher energy in the dance floor, so you need to make sure that you're adding interesting builds, and you're constantly introducing like effects to showcase that the next 16 bars is coming up, and keeping the listeners on the edge of their seats, or like just like dancing like crazy because of the fact that there's so much anticipation constantly being built, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Tension and release is the name of the game. So I think great track in terms of mixing and mastering and creating the idea with having the right amount of elements. I think, but you need to like play around with the elements a bunch more. There needs to be
yeah.
more movement within the track and every 16 bars. But
Yeah,
yeah.
one of the things that I would recommend, and this is what Rebel Asleep does for almost every whip now, is he does not write in extended mix. He writes in radio edit format. So he's just writing a radio edit and just getting the bulk of the track done first. Because the extended mix really is, for at least what Immersed does, is just the figuring out how to get to the start of the radio edit. It's like, okay, you got some drums, you can bring in some elements, and then boom, it just goes straight to the radio edit. And you have now in the radio edit, you're just trying to maximize the songwriting as much as possible and to make a story out of it. In any case, most of the people that are going to listen to your music are not club goers, especially at Immersed. It's going to be streamers, and it's going to be people on Twitch. It's going to be people on Spotify listening to radio edits. Sure, we get a lot of club support, but most of the songs that, at least that I enjoy in the industry, are well song written and start out as radio edits.
Yeah, I think, okay, so that's actually a great point that you mentioned, and I think that's a super important thing to note about our kind of music, which is super melodic. Melodic music is meant to be enjoyed mostly on streaming rather than in the dance floor. While it's also dance floor focused, and you can enjoy it in the dance floor, it's become so much more enjoyable. You can just sit there and listen to melodic music. You can't do that to hard techno. That's just not how it works, right? Like hard techno, you can enjoy it, but you need the context of the dance floor. So you need to like dance at the dance floor, etc. Yeah. So with this kind of music, you need to make sure that it's exciting enough in a 3-minute to 4-minute period. So start off by building up the arrangement of a radio edit, and then extend it to the extended edit. But then when you do pack up the radio edit with enough information, with a lot of like cool effects, etc., then when you spread it out to the intro and outro, it'll be very easy for you to reduce things as you go, and like have more things to work with, rather than starting from an extended edit and starting from an intro, especially where you'll have a really difficult time starting creating ideas, etc. afterwards. Okay, but so far I really enjoyed this track. This one is
this track has potential to become a very, very powerful track. Just needs to focus on those things, and if you spend the time polishing it up and getting that songwriting more compact and much more flowy, then boom, I expect to see this on a label like Sakura, Purified, or any kind of Berlin-based label.
Yeah. All right. So the next up is Greymane.
Yep.
Do you have the track? It's called Letting Go.
Yeah. Letting go.
Let's go.
What are we letting go, though?
Letting go.
We're letting go of her feelings.
Yeah. All right.
I feel sad today.
Yeah. All right, man. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go first on this one. I'm just interested to like. I think it's one of those tracks with the vibe is pretty chill, but it's like I just heard like a loop forever. Like it was just very loopy for me. I didn't find it to be super.
Yes
Yeah.
and no. One of the things that I think that can help is mix the drums again. Start off by getting those levels correct, with the kick being the loudest and then everything else sitting correctly. Because then when that main drop comes in at about 148, then it will hit harder, because then the kick will just be boom right there, and all the melodies will be up with the will be just right under the kick, and everything will sit better. Sure, there was a loop and it kind of looped quite a bit, but I think that's what this style of music goes for. Because
I
it's like
I agree to a
there's
point.
there's a certain element that
Hmm.
we hook onto,
Yeah.
and we just edit it over for 3 to 4 minutes, and you hold on to it. But first and foremost, those kicks and percussions got to be mixed a little bit better,
Yeah.
so that we can actually hear everything in its own space. That's the number one thing that will make this track a lot better. Then you can go in and work on the arrangement and everything. But if you can't hear what you're doing, then anything else is just a futile work.
I think yeah. So I think the arrangement, I think the mix and stuff can be fixed. I think yeah, the percussions need to be a little bit more like wet and need to have a little bit more hall reverb sent to the hall reverb return channel or something to make sure
Yep.
they all feel like they're part of a room or a hall, right? But the other thing I think in general is like um it's the memorability of this track. The vocal chops are nice, but I wish there was more creativity put into them, like introducing them like slowly instead of like just the whole loop, adding more variations to them, and then even working towards maybe having a lead that kind of reciprocates and becomes like the response or the call to that particular vocal chop. Having something like an arpeggio that kind of just works with that in a response manner would be a little bit better. Not exactly an arpeggio, but an arpeggio lead, which is slightly
Yeah.
different, where there is no, it doesn't, it's not a continuous thing, but it is upfront and keeps changing in rhythm. If you want to think of example, think of like Tin Liquor, etc. Right? They can have a very chill track, but they also have a very evolving lead. Another person
Yeah.
that really came to mind is like Joseph Ray with the vocal chops. I think he does a great job, especially his new song like "Cause of You" was really good. I think
Yeah.
that could be a good reference for that kind of stuff.
On Immersed, it would be Lazarus's track called Relic, and that has a very the vocal sample is the center of the track, but it's not overblown, and there are elements throughout the track where just the track breathes, and we're mixing it up, moving it around and things. So I would recommend listening to that as well, to get in kind of an idea that you don't need to hold on to a vocal sample. You can use it as inspiration and as a way to make the track interesting, but don't hold on to it and make it overbearing
Well,
as Rich.
as Greyman says, you gotta let go of the vocal sample. You gotta be
Yeah.
letting go of the vocal sample. All right. Next up, we got Shiny Thing, X Moise Hoyo demo. Let me know if you're ready.
Give me 1 second. Yeah.
I think it's by Pansky. So Pansky, we're listening to your track right now. All right,
I
1,
believe so. Yeah.
2, 3, let's go. Oop.
Usubiri ukaniacha, ulioniusia ni ya kweli mama, tena nayaona sana. Naona milima, naona mabonde, sia zako mama, matatizo ya dunia ulioniusia ni ya kweli mama, tena nayaona sana. Unifunzo
All right, Alex.
Hello, hello, hello.
Tell me more. Tell me about this song. How do you feel?
Yeah, this is a great track. This is a very nice track, and this is definitely something that can become a banger. But the vocal comes in really abrupt and in the wrong spot because I don't. It just came in. Okay, first kick, second kick, vocal, and I'm like, all right, I want to experience this melody, this vibe first before anything else.
Mm-hmm. So you want.
Uh,
So
so
you
I
want.
want this vocal to come into the first kind of breakdown.
Okay. So you said like hold off from bringing the vocal in the
Yeah.
intro immediately.
Also, the vocal is playing way too often and it's
Mm-hmm.
overshadowing the rest of the elements.
Mm-hmm.
I would take a look at the way Lane 8 structures his tracks with a vocal in it because this is very similar in vibe to a Lane 8 track, but you need to have both sections breathe. I think breathing, making this track less focused on the vocal but still have it present will make it a lot more flowing. Other than that, this track is really good. I think it's just the Dropbox compression that makes the kick sound a little bit muffled and everything, but everything else is pretty solid. And I think like a Sakura would probably take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a pretty.
Potentially.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice track. I think the vibe is pretty well set.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you on the fact that I think the vocals are like just always like going. They're just like too present. You want to make people miss the vocal a little bit too, right? And
Yep.
with this kind of song, I don't know if you could find some like choir, like I don't know, like some African choir vocals that could be added to the to the breakdown or the drop as well, instead of the actual vocal just continuing. The other thing is also like when you are using like when you are when you have African Swahili vocals, that's like a great opportunity for you to dive into the cinematic art, like African instruments, right? Like try to like actually see what the culture is all about and try to like leverage that and bring that into the song. And maybe talking to the vocalist can give you an idea of like what he can imagine, like what are the natural ways you can bring out that instead of trying to like be it being forced. In general though, this is me being nitpicky, the track is very nice. I think the quality
Yeah.
of the track is great. The mix is pretty solid. I didn't find too many issues at all with that. at some point of time, so towards the end, I could hear the thump of the kick that I feel like you could, eliminate by either like filtering the kick or maybe just using, using a different version of the kick where there isn't as much of the mid aspect of it. But again, that was pretty much nitpicking. This is pretty good. Great song so
yeah.
far.
It's just like you gotta just sit down and just figure out what is gonna be the main element of the track. Are you trying to go for a vocal heavy track, or is it a melodic house track? Because really the melodies are the main thing in a melodic house track. Everything else is just added benefit.
Yep.
And if your added benefit is really great, then boom, you've got two elements that work really well together, and it's going to be a banger track.
Yep.
Let's sit down, figure it out.
Yep. Great job, Alex. I think this is gonna could be easily the track of the stream. So I'm just gonna put it way in the front. My stuff. Okay. Next up, we have Vice and Versa, with Forbidden. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Nice. I think this is outro. We can stop here. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on this before I go into it. What do you think?
Yeah. I like Afterlife vibes. I like all of that, but it's a really great track, and you've got a lot of good it's got good elements, but I think that it as like a couple of tracks ago, the super dark one, it's a little bit repetitive in certain parts. I would try to either shorten the track, don't play out certain elements too long, and just try to make it less repetitive. That's the only feedback that I've got. Everything works really well. The kick is nice. The LFO breakdown is really nice. So I think everything works really well. Just need to shorten it a little bit, just so that it's not super repetitive. Because most tracks that I get that are super dark are just overly repetitive and don't really have that central theme being accentuated as much. And so that's pretty much my feedback at the moment. Just make it a little short and just don't be overly repetitive.
Yeah,
Everything works really well.
yeah. So this is kind of different because it's like in progressive and stuff, like things go a lot faster. Progressive and melodic house comparatively things go a lot faster. In melodic techno and stuff, it's actually meant to go really slow, right? Like if you listen to Art Bat and stuff, and you're a melodic house fan, it might just be too slow for you, like because like the changes happen like so slowly and so gradually things open up. And that's kind of also like kind of the audience, right? Like that's where the audience comes into play, where the audience of melodic techno is like slightly different from the melodic house audience, so you won't find the same people in the same party per se. But yeah, I think overall, I think the sound design choices and all of that stuff was so fantastic. I was like really intrigued, and like I was very curious about what's going to happen next, and I didn't know what was going to happen next in the breakdown.
Yeah.
That was one thing.
Oh yeah,
like,
the breakdown's fantastic. You're left with suspense, and that's what you
Yeah.
want in big melodic tracks, especially the dance. But you don't want to know what's happening next. You want to have your hands up in the air, and this one has the tension.
Yeah, tension is the right word, and especially when the build-up comes. I think one thing that I would say, right at the drop over here, the synths become a little quiet when the drop comes in. I think I want the synths to be right in my face. So I don't know. You could maybe turn them up a dB or two when the drop is playing, or maybe turn them down a dB or two before the drop hits, because that would create a lot more tension, right? Like you want to bring the synths up in the face when the drop hits. But overall, this is just again being nitpicky. This is a great track. Yeah, I think let's move on to the next one. So the next one is Oh, by the way, this was one of my students, Barrow. He's been killing it, and I think we're gonna be yeah. I'm gonna be make sure that artists like him. If you ever wanna learn about melodic techno and stuff, we get some melodic techno people as well on the
Yeah,
stream,
yeah.
and maybe make immersed melodic techno a thing in the future. You never know.
Yeah.
All right, so actually that playlist was
Yeah.
empty, so we're just gonna listen to this one. Uh,
All right, I'm
Love
ready.
on My Mind, Gadam bootleg. So let's go. One, are you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Ain't no use in me wasting time. I got love on my mind.
Dirty.
Ain't no use in me wasting time. I got love on my mind. Ain't no use in me wasting time. I got love on my mind. Ain't no use in me wasting time. I got love on my mind. Ain't no use in me wasting time, 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 time. I got love on my mind. Ain't no use in me wasting time. I got love on my mind. When my heartache is over, I know I won't be missing you. I won't look over my shoulder. I know that I can live without you. Oh, live without you. Oh, I can live without you. I can live without you. Ain't no use in me wasting time, 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 time. Ain't no use in me wasting time. I got love on my mind. Ain't no use in me wasting time.
Yeah, I think that's outro. Okay, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot more of my specialty, but I also want to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I actually listen to quite a bit of tech house just for fun.
Yeah.
I do have a playlist that I keep updating on a regular basis for tech house, so like deeper pressures and people like that. But I think, hold on a second here. Yeah, the bass line, yes, bass lines are really big in tech house, but I think this one is a little overblown in the sense that it needs either EQing or just a take the dB down.
Mhm.
I think that's just one major thing that kind of is a problem. It could just be also Dropbox being bad with compression and things. Same with the other track that had a vocal sample. I think we can really slow down on the frequency of it and have it in the more open spots where maybe there's not a big like elements like the how do you call it, the bass shot and things. You can have it in the breakdowns, but not as frequently.
Cool. Yeah, I think
Other than that, yeah, it's a good track, and just again, repetition is also a problem.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
keep on writing it and try to add a few more elements so it's not just the same groove over and over. That's the number. Those are my big feedback takeaways.
Yeah, so I think, okay, so for tech house and stuff, I think the name of the game is tension and release. I think in tech house especially, because the groove, like generally the groove is pretty much the same throughout. There's very rarely new elements towards the end. Maybe there's like an addition of a ride or some, maybe like vocal chops or something, but generally it stays the same and the drop just needs to hit hard. In this situation, I think the kick is kind of weak. I would, replace that kick with like another kick that you like, and also the claps. I think the drums are the basis of the groove of tech house. You need to have like really groovy drums, and so like I felt the bass was groovy. It's a rolling tech house bass line, which is just a rolling bass line, but has a lot more groove to it, like with a lot more swing. I think you should really look into artists such as maybe Valaris or even Max Styler, even John Summit for having like a groovy rhythmic rolling bass line. I actually am going to be putting out a tutorial on how to make John Summit's remix of I Remember, and it's going to be out this weekend. But yeah, so that's kind of what I would look towards. Try to understand how a rolling tech house bass line works with the drums that they have. There's always a lot of like percussiveness to the bass, to the drums. There's like percussions added to the rolling bass line. To the drums of the rolling bass line, and on top of that, you also have like a very sharp but thin kick. Like it doesn't have too much of the low end in order to give room for the rolling bass line to shine, right? But yeah, I think I really enjoyed the vocals and everything. I think the mix wasn't that bad either. I think it's just the sample choices that need to be really taken into consideration. And yeah, I think the bass also needs a little bit of cleaning up. But go ahead.
The track "The Stutter" by Deeper Purpose, it's one of the more festively kind of tracks, but I think like the bass, the way that he mixed the bass line in there is really cool. I think it could get some inspiration for ideas to throw on top of your rolling bass lines, because you have some cool elements, but how do you interlace them and make them super catchy? I think this track could be some basis to get some inspiration for a future track.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, good job, and thanks for sharing this track. I think I do value like when people bring different genres to this stream, because I really enjoyed like listening to a lot of different music as well. And I've been like making a lot of tech house as well. I used to make a lot of tech house before, starting to move more towards it as well. So this is something that I really enjoy. So keep sharing your tech house, melodic house, progressive, and melodic techno.
And Immersed also is interested in tech house, but it's got to be melodic. So John Summit, Maxine from what's that label called? Tool Room. That kind of stuff. Yeah, we can definitely get it. And also your track too is very tech housey. In some ways.
Yeah, this is pretty good. All right, so next up we have dirty bass lines from Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
That's jokes.
In Quebec we say Frankenstein.
That's jokes. All right, are we ready for this one?
Yeah, let's go.
1, 2, 3, let's go. Ooh, this is also groovy. Let's go.
to that dirty bass line.
Pretty dope. All right, this is the outro right now. Yeah, man, that was fun. I honestly, I just feel like, I just like love music like this that just like, bring up the energy. If this kind of track is played like at a dance floor, I am dancing, bro. I'm like jumping into the dance floor. I don't know if I'm holding a drink, that drink is flying somewhere, and I'm just gonna go to the dance floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, this track has everything that is good for a banger. But
Yeah.
we need to see everything's great. The vocals, the loops don't play that overly repetitive. Vocal sample is really good. Everything works quite well, but this is just the base of the track. What we need now is to see a top line melody come in the second half of the track, so that it's not just the bass line being the number one thing of the track. I want to hear either sparkly pad flux at the top, or you bring in an actual top line melody to it. Then it would just put that track into top gear, and then you're done.
Yeah, I
You
think
got everything. It's like you got the sound. You got a straight up
Yeah.
style that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Mhm.
Now just polish it off with a top line melody of your choice, and boom, you're done.
Yeah, I think the main thing about tech house also is like, again, they're really creating a lot of tension and like messing around with the breakdown and having like a crazy hook right at the drop, right? And then I think the bass line sounds so close to a 303 bass line, which is like an acid bass line, that you could really introduce a new like higher layer of acid bass line, like that kind of stuff would work well with this kind of style as well. And it's very groovy as it is. The other thing is, I think the percussions are very like filtered, and it's creative, but you want those to be kind of adding to the rhythm of the track. So you want the energy of the track to be immaculate, and you can't like mess around with the percussions not being like adding to that by filtering them too much, etc. Especially if you listen to tracks by like Jamie Jones, you listen to tracks from like Repopulate Mars or any of the tech house guys, like especially even the solid groove stuff, you'll notice like how the kick is just punchy, mad, and the clap is hard hitting, and on top of that stuff, you need the percussions are clean, but like slightly distorted. And too much filtery movement sounds cool, but that then now encroaches on like a disco house. So now with that, you want to use the disco filter. So there's like, you're trying to do very interesting creative stuff, but there's like there's some purpose to these things in a certain genre and purpose to certain elements, so you can't like move those elements that are purposely meant for the rhythm.
I think you can use those filters, but as tension towards a drop, and not just randomly with right in the middle of a section. Because I like it, I think fantastic way to bridge into another section, but just keep it to that. If you really want to start messing with that kind of stuff, leave it to when you're playing it out at a club, and you can use the CDJ effects board. You can use those effects knobs and mess with it during your set. Because when you're listening to this on Spotify, you want it to be simple, straightforward, get to the point, and then you can, in the middle, during your transitions, get to all of those how do you call it, the filters.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that one. But so far, super fun track. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think you just got to put that main melody in there creatively, and then you're done.
Yep.
And then boom, I think Tool Room will be calling.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So talking about Tool Room, we got a crowded room here with our as the next track.
Yeah, baby, we're gonna get crowded.
We're getting
Salon
crowded.
Daume in Montreal, crowded room, baby.
Yeah, that was a fun time. That was a fun time. All right. Are you ready to listen? We got
Yeah.
Hefe and Alizwe, two of my students
Chief.
collaborating. Let's go. Let's see
One.
what they came up with. Okay,
3,
1,
2, 1.
the outro at this point.
That is the outro.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right.
I want to hear your opinion on this
This is if our friend Rebel Asleep signed to iMusica.
Yeah.
It's literally what it is. That's the vibe that I get from it. Everything works really well. You've got great vibes. You've got interesting hooks. Elements are really good. I would say that the one thing that was a little disappointing that could be fixed is like I always say with every single track here, to just have something extra in the breakdown area after you do the breakdown, the hard heavy part. There's something probably just a little extra that you can put in, like either like an extra pad or a sprinkly like extra little melodic notes or something to keep it fresh and not repetitive of the same groove that you had in the first half of the track. I liked all the elements. They worked really well. I think the kick could be just a tiny bit louder and pump a little harder. That's just a preference of mine because yeah, that's pretty much it. I think this track could be just a tad little longer, like 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So if you could do that, then I think they would be done.
Yeah, I think this track is pretty dope actually. I really enjoyed the the notes, just going into transitionary notes that you have in the middle of each bass line. And yeah, I think that was great. I think you kind of missed an opportunity at the second breakdown, to bring it back with and then slap them in the face with those transitioning notes which you had, like because that kind of stuff would really blow the drop out of the water. Because have that with the brass element that drops that like combines and like layers on top of that one instrument that you had, and that's just like that's a recipe for killing the dance floor. It'll just not in the bad way, like destroying the dance floor, like having people just go hard. I think track is pretty good. I really like the small subtle things that you have going, especially that white noise thingy synth that's going on in the background, even in the intro and the outro, keeping things super interesting. It's like it's an intro and an outro, but it's still not boring, right? Like it's still like has my attention and things are still going. So definitely loving this track. Really, really good job, guys. I think I really liked it. I think
it's a track that just has the elements of a good melodic house track.
Yeah, I think I was actually thinking maybe like I was kind of feeling like immersed on a little bit of like some of this, especially if it had like a crazy brassy element to it, right? Like which is but it's more like
I won't say anything. I won't pinky promise on anything or guarantee. It is a very nice track and it has great elements. It's we're not. You got to work on the track a little bit more to make it polished, because every demo that comes into the inbox, there's always something that can be better.
Yeah, for sure. No. I wasn't trying to put you on the line, buddy. Like, sign this right now, homie. Like, no, but I really enjoyed it. I was just thinking about like what kind of tracks I would mix into it.
But there's always communication.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, if you just joined in, if you want to send your demos to Immersed, you can send it to demos at
Immersed. Demo without an S.
Oh, it's without an S. Okay, demo at immersedrecordings.com right there.
And I just Rebel of Sleep will message me and say if it's good or bad.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and so do that. Also, please go and support the latest release of Immersed. That's Phelan and Jordan Arts track, I believe. That was released.
Yeah, that's the most recent thing in Timothy is Immersed Elements number 6.
Immersed Elements number 6, guys. Go ahead and support it. Alex, if you have the link to it, please drop it for the pre-save.
It's gonna be
All right.
Interesting. Purpose. Da, da, da.
There you go. Yeah, guys, great job. Thanks for sending this. Next up, we have David Dare with Diva.
Oh,
Let's.
just give me one quick second.
Yep, for sure. Take your time.
Yeah, Alive is a banger. That's true.
Actually, we have Fallen first. I forgot to put this guy in.
Oh, Fallen.
Yeah, it's.
Who? I don't know. I don't have that.
Yeah, you do. Save Me. Fallen, Save Me. It's right under.
Tholin. I thought you said Fallen, and I was like, huh? Are we falling again?
Nah, not failing and
Are we
falling.
failing? Like you're actually failing at stuff
Yeah.
at gmail.com?
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready whenever you are.
All right. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Nice. What did you think of that one?
Yes, finally, we got a good example. That is a good example in the second half at about, where is this? 247. It is not a repetition of the same rhythm. There's a main melody, there's a main chord coming in, and it's also euphoric and it's cool and it's nice and it's bright. Now, that's just fantastic. Everyone should take note, and if Tholen ever posts this to the public, should use that as a good reference for how to make the second half of the drop light and airy and interesting. One thing that is true, I don't know how to address this, that's why I have A&Rs that help me out, is that the drop in this part of the drop, I think the middle of the track, like the middle part, it felt like right in the middle was just a little empty, and I think it's just some production. I don't know how to accurately describe how to
Where
fix that,
exactly?
but
Let me listen to it.
so
Where?
it is just the basic drop of the track at about
Uh,
205, where it just feels like the middle, like you have a
yeah,
good
I know
pick, I think.
exactly what you're talking about. That's exactly
Yeah,
what I
it's
was
like the
going to talk
middle of
about.
the track just felt like it, like, oh, I
Yeah,
want,
yeah,
like I feel like the top of my head has
yeah.
all the information, but then the bottom of my head has all the information, and the
Mhm.
right in the middle is like there needs to be something there, and it might
Yeah,
be
yeah.
processing or an extra element that comes in or something.
It's atmosphere.
But you
I
know,
think that's what
yeah,
it is. The atmosphere is what's missing. I think there's a lot of like cool, especially in this style of music, there's a lot of cool atmosphere that you can make with the vocals, with everything, and just like keep it in the background just a little bit, just so quiet, just in the back, just it's just setting the vibe. And that
yeah,
atmosphere, when introduced in the intro, gives a whole vibe, gives an introduction to the whole vibe. It kind of gives people like, okay, this is what the
yeah,
melody is going to be like. Um, I love the track, the general, other than the atmosphere and maybe a little bit more like reverb, like hall reverb a little bit all around. I think one of the things is at times I felt like the vocal was definitely off key. I think there was
yeah,
like times when like she was singing it like "Save me from myself." It was kind of definitely not
yeah, yeah.
not something that I would yeah I would
I've heard my
really
fair share of out of key singers,
yeah.
and this one I think has the potential to be really great, and I think you recognize that
Hmm.
by putting a heck ton of reverb on the vocal to
Hmm.
mask any problems that came arose from the out of key.
Yeah.
But yeah, my favorite part is that second part of the drop coming in at 247. Man, that part just made me feel happy because you had the chord stab with lots of emotion and energy, and you didn't keep the same thing throughout it. You changed the notes and you kept it fresh, and that's just perfect to me. But I wouldn't sign this just from the vibe itself. Is not what Immersed goes for,
Yeah.
but you've definitely done something that actually makes me very happy, and I enjoyed that a lot.
There you go, man. You made Alex happy. I thought that was impossible, buddy. That's dope. I think yeah. The other thing I noticed was like the brass element. There is some lows lacking. I think you cut out too much of the lows of the brass element, which kind of is supposed to drive the energy of the track, right? So either you layer the bass and the brass so perfectly that they're like there's no frequency band left in the middle, so it creates a lot of energy by having a sustained bass on top of it, on top of like the brass element. But over here you have more rhythmic stuff, so I would just have more of the lower end of the brass present, and then you can track space the bass line that you have on that track. But yeah, so far I think I really enjoyed that track, and yeah, good job, man. I really dig that one. Next one we have David Dare on Diva.
David Adair, which is accurately described as under construction.
All right, let's see. Let's see if it's actually under construction or is good enough. All right, ready?
Tres, dos, uno.
Deere. That was super interesting. I think David Dare is
Yeah.
early on in his journey, which is okay, man. That's
Yeah.
everybody's on
Yeah,
it.
number one thing to do is never play something over and over and over again.
Mhm,
Use it sparingly and make it the center of the track, but don't play it over and over again. It is a very cool idea, and
mhm,
I enjoy the idea. You just need to know when to play it and when not to play it, and
mhm,
that you just get by listening to as many tracks as possible, taking a note, writing down one thing that Rebel Asleep did early on. I think he did this. I could be wrong. You say, okay, this is a track I like. Now we're gonna just write it out, the structure of the track. Like,
mhm.
okay, he starts with this, he brings in this, he brings in that, and this is the next part. And you just visualize it, and then you say, okay, now I'll write a song that has this and practice. And that's how you get better and better over time. Everything just needs to be less repetitive and then just keep on building from there. Just take a track that sounds similar and then just copy it with your structure. Just copy that structure and then keep on building upon it and just learn from
Yeah.
uh, what you learned from practicing.
Yeah, I think for one thing you want to understand is like, okay, what lane are you gonna go into? Like, because I'm noticing elements from like house music, which are like, tech housey. Then there's a sustained bass, so it's like more melodic house, and then there's like, I think the arpeggios are like very, I think a little bit basic in terms of the sound design. I would just pick a preset that is, complex, that sounds nice, and work with that, because right now I'm hearing a lot of square waves, and square waves are really like tough, because of the problem with square waves is it takes not a lot for it to become like a Mario Brothers track, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like because it's like 16-bit, that's all they had. Like 8-bit, that's all they kind of had, because that's what like square waves were supported at that point in time. They didn't have enough to make complex waveforms. So that's kind of where that sound comes from. And when you use it often, it kind of becomes a little, it can become like a little like corny in that way, right? So you got to be careful about using like square waves unless it's done in a very classic manner, like classy manner. Right, I think
Yeah.
in general you're on the right track, buddy. Ask questions and get good sample packs. I think that's a great way of starting, and have a clear focus on which direction you want to go. Do you want to go in the melodic house? What do you enjoy more? Tech house, melodic techno? Because all of them are so different lanes. It might seem the same to you right now, but they're
Yeah.
so complex and different that if you go one direction, and when you go deep down that direction a couple of years down, then you'll understand, oh, okay, I finally get this genre. I finally
Yeah.
get what's going on.
Yeah, the way that I would recommend any new producer to do this is to just make tracks. Just have 100 different works in progress files on your computer and just keep on just don't focus on like, hey, I need to make a track and I want to get it released or put it out to the public. Just make something. It doesn't matter if you put it out or anything. Just make it. And then if you start seeing a consistent pattern within those project files, then you can start saying, okay, well, this is what I like doing. I like focusing on these elements, and then write them down, figure them out, and then start making some other new projects and only using those elements and start really honing in on what you're doing, because that's what a good producer really does before they ever get signed. The good people, at least, like the Parallel Voices, the Rebel of Sleeps, they all were well trained before they came and signed their first ever tracks, because they just weren't dedicated to the fame. Just dedicate yourself to the artistic perfection that you're able to do, and that's just with practice and listening and understanding. And also things that a lot of people don't do is just build a group of friends that are producers and feedback your tracks in a private chat, and just have them as a consistent basis for feedbacks and things.
Yeah, I think that's important, and that's why we have the Discord. Don't be afraid to like share your tracks with the producers. Also, like start like asking questions. I think this is one of the things that I think people are really afraid of, is like asking questions. And like someone might be going through the same journey. So there's no like stupid question per se. All you could do is potentially ask that question, and maybe another person's trying to get the answer to that question too, and you might bond on that and learn something together.
Oh yeah. You need
Mm.
people need to have producer groups. Like
Mhm.
I walked in on Spencer Brown's little producer group, private group. It's like there are plenty of people who need the feedback, and even our favorite producers
Mhm.
really need to have that continuous loop of
Mhm.
feedback, and it's
Yeah.
a normal thing. Don't
Mhm.
be afraid. Don't be shy to ask.
Yeah, don't be shy to ask. All right, next up we have Sia with Yandi. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm not sure. This guy's already released it as a free
Sia?
download.
I'll see you later then.
Sia Yandi, or yeah, Yandi. I'm gonna say that.
Let's see. Where is this person? Does he say United Kingdom? So it would be probably Gandhi, like an African pronunciation, probably.
Maybe. All right, let's go.
All right. This goes
One, two, three. Let's go.
go.
There's Kanye on this too. I just realized it's Kanye.
Oh shit!
I think we can stop here.
Yeah.
What do you think, man? What did you think?
Yeah, this is a cool track. The idea is cool, but the execution is a little lackluster and a little. I don't want to be mean, but I'm gonna say it because I'm an honest man. A little lazy. You can definitely like the beginning drop
Mm-hmm.
at about what is it? At 147. Yeah. Okay, you can lead with that. You can go with that. As I've said multiple times in the stream, that there needs to be extra elements that come in and make it interesting. I was also hoping for some Kanye sample or something, of a vocal like spoken sample to come in the middle of it to make it seem like a track about him instead of just the production of Donda, which I think that vocal sample comes from. Other than that, the mixture was perfect, I think, for this type of track. Just that element of needing extra to not make it a snooze fest would definitely put this track over the top. That's why I linked in chat the Mark Blair Kanye flip, because that shows how you can make lo-fi out of just a meme, and I think that's what this guy is going for. Just keep it simple, keep the next element up, and then you're well on your way to increasing decreasing the snooze fest of it.
Yeah, I think he probably had Kanye samples in there before he got canceled, though. He's like, yo, I gotta pull this before I drop this pre-download ASAP. That was the intention. Yeah, I think in general, like the idea, the sampling was interesting in the start, but I think the execution with the drums and I think with tech house, you can't be like half-assing the drums and the drops, etc.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. I think so. I had like this track of mine that I'd worked in a long time ago, which is like like pretty much a similar vibe. I took an Alicia Keys sample, and this is what it sounds like right now.
Wondering maybe, could I make you my baby? I was wondering maybe, could I make you my baby?
So yeah, so I was listening to just the breakdown right over here. You're creating a lot of tension, and just before the drop, in the drop, there's not a lot happening because it's all about the groove and maybe just some like vocal, chops to keep things interesting. So I'm gonna start listening to it. Alex from 402. Alex.
402, yeah.
402. All right.
I was wondering maybe, could I make you my baby? I was wondering maybe, could I make you my baby? I was wondering maybe, could I make you my baby? I was wondering maybe, could I make you my baby? I was wondering maybe, could I make you my baby? I was wondering maybe, could I make you my baby? I was wondering maybe.
There you go. So like it's not a lot that happens at the drop, but it's more about like the build up to the drop. You got to be super creative with like the reversing of stuff, making new synths, like adding stuff that kind of like all goes together. But yeah, I think in general like the sampling was cool. I think you could do a lot more with it, and the drums need to be banging. Like your kick drum, it needs to be sharp and present in the center, which is going to drive everybody to move, right? So take examples of labels such as Solid Groove, because I feel like that's kind of where you're kind of going.
What's that label called? Material Music, all their sub labels.
Material.
They have really good stuff on. I can't remember what the name of the label is.
Yeah.
But all their sub labels are just, their kicks are so prominent and they play so well, and so you just gotta sharpen all that up and put more samples in there and make it variable, so it's fun. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Next up, we have Khan's Universe. Khan looks like Jon Snow, to be honest. Like, what's going on? This guy
it seems like Khan went to sleep, so we will review this.
Yeah.
He will probably message me later about it.
But he does look like he's gonna go conquer like the King of Dragons or the Queen of Dragons, right?
British people during the winter. My boy.
Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Okay, this is the outro. Yeah, I'm gonna go first on this one. I really dig.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this was I really dug the entire like idea, and the groove especially is super sick. I love the percussive bass line on this, and yeah, I just like sound design is pretty good as well. Mix needs a lot of work, but I think other than the mix, the ideas were super creative. I love the cinematic stuff in the breakdown. I think you could create more space for the things that are happening on the like out, on the outside of the strings. Like there's strings happening, and there's a lot of like other cinematic elements that kind of get lost because the strings just take up so much, and also the bass being taking up so much space in the mix kind of takes away from the other stuff that's playing. So yeah, I think you need to do a solid mix down and like make sure everything has its own place. And an easy way to make sure that kind of stuff happens is getting yourself track spacer, which allows you to, you know, sidechain an instrument to the other instrument. But in general, I think if you just reduce the bass a little bit and make sure it's like 3 dBs less than the kick, you should be a lot better.
Completely agree with that statement. The mixture, usually with a lot of demos, the main thing that I find is that the idea is cool, but then the mix is just not at the level that makes me want to enjoy the track. So I could tell that the mixture was a little bit rough and it needs to be refined. Your kick needs to be the center of focus. You need to turn down some of the percussions and make sure that there's space in between. The bass needs to come down about 3 dB to make it not super crushed. Your idea is really cool. The drop was super interesting. Not my kind of thing, but definitely it will work on quite a lot of people because it's super techy, interesting. And I think like an FSOE UV would probably be interested in something like this. But other than that, I don't really have much else to say other than yes, the breakdown could be just a little bit more spaced out in terms of more silence and bringing in elements and over time, just so it's not full at all of the moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we have a couple more tracks to go, and then we should be
Ooh, cool.
you know, we're gonna be closing it down. This is the next track by
I don't have it yet.
Mindset.
There we go. If Mindset's still here, hopefully he is.
Holla.
Holler at me, boy.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, let's go.
Yeah. I I like this song. I like the song, but there's some either stab bass thing right in the middle of the frequencies, like the mids, that is sounds slightly out of tune. So it's like, wow. I'm trying to find it. Yeah,
My bad. Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so I felt that the one thing that I really liked about this track was like the lead, the way it came in the start. The main thing that kind of was missing in the second drop, I felt, was that it needed that lead to come back again with like more emphasis, right? And it needed to hit harder. So okay,
yeah.
and I'll let,
At 053,
the
there is
fifth.
this like 053, there's this like element that just goes wow.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
It's
in
like
the
a
background.
low, it's like
Yeah,
a low, it's a very low
yeah, it's like a wobble. It's
synth.
like a
It's like,
wobble. Yeah.
yeah, and that just sounds out of tune. And
Mhm.
or it might be in tune, but the placement of it is very, it's too high in the mix, and
Mhm.
it's not in the background enough for it to resonate properly.
Mhm.
So it's sounding to me like it's out of tune, and I would like for that to be
Mhm.
fixed,
Mhm.
because that is the number one thing that drove me nuts when listening to this track.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Mhm.
you've got great elements.
Mhm.
I would again just say give a little bit more space in the breakdown and bring some elements back in one by one.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
the
This is.
drop was nice. I think the kick could be a little bit thumpier.
I
Other than that,
I
that's pretty
actually
much
like the
it.
kick. I think the kick was okay in this one. I think it just needed that like extra stuff going on in the second drop, like with the main lead coming in with like gated saw that could like even be supporting that.
Yeah.
It could be huge. That could become
Yeah.
like that could literally be like a
The bass line,
the
the
track
bass,
of
the main like atmospheric bass was pretty cool.
yeah.
And that kept me
Agrees.
very interested throughout the track, but
Mhm.
of course it's not perfect, and I think this track can definitely just get a fresh mix
Yeah.
and just look at it in reference. I think
Braxton. I think Braxton G.
also on I'm just thinking about Immersed tracks because I know them
Mhm.
like to the back of my hand, and I think there's one track that's just entirely breaks out. Let me see. A Flight to a Dream by Into the Ether would be a great reference. That's just straight breaks entirely.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, so that's going to be a good track to reference. And I think in general, breaks tracks have, a clear direction because it's not like they're not so far apart from each other stylistically. It's not like melodic house where it's so many like different branches,
Yeah.
etc. So you can, especially the ones
Yeah.
on Immersed and Anjuna and even Purified, you'll find them to have similarities. All right. Next up, we have So Lost by Mautry. This is our last one.
Yep.
Are you ready for this?
Oh yeah.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Won't stay, 'cause I'm
Yeah, this bass is fantastic. The art. Nice. Man, that was solid. That's a great way to
I'm just gonna say it right out of the box. That's I think that's my favorite song of the stream
Yeah, I
by
agree.
far
I agree.
because everything is mixed correctly. There's space, there's time, there's emotion, there's energy. Now, there's nothing I would say that could fix this track and make it any better, other than what Rebel Asleep has already said in chat. There's a few more atmospheric elements in the track, in the breakdown part, and that's pretty much it. You've got a great storyline. It flows. The vocals not overpowering. The vibe is immaculate, and it's really cool. Now, is this for Immersed? No, because it's a little too dark and too pensive. But I think someone like Abel from last week or some other European label could definitely take a look at this with a positive eye.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely love this track, to be honest. And there's very little that I found that was like not interesting. I think the mix is so clean. There's
Yeah.
also like a lot of tension and release. It's beautiful, and the vocals sit very nicely on top of the lead, and the bass in the middle. I think the bass arpeggio that you had in the middle, that sounded so analog. It sounded so much like a Moog Sub 37, and it was done really, really well, actually. So good job on that. I think the
Yeah.
one critique that I have is there was this like small wobbly LFO thing in the middle of over here, and that thing was kind of like hidden in everything that was happening. You can use the a track spacer to really make it present in that part and make sure that it's noticeable even while it's in the background. Like, it doesn't have to be up front to be noticeable. It just needs to have its own place in the mix while still blending in the back. So it's actually, yeah, that's why that's what I thought. I knew it would be something that's like more digital, like Serum, but you've made it sound really well analog-y.
Yeah.
So good job on that.
One element that really I appreciated was at 048, the transition into this next part is fantastic, and I thought like, hey, that's cool.
Yeah, I
Where
think
you're not filtering it, but you're increasing just the level of that bass part, and you're bringing down this part. It's like you're going like this, like that, and it's like, that's just cool.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. It's cool and innovative and a way to just keep the track fresh in transition. So I thought that was cool to mention.
Yeah, man, Matri, I'm gonna give you the track of the week for this one.
Yeah.
DM me and I'll give you some sort of privilege on the server so that whenever we have a feedback stream, we'll get you to the top of the list, at least for the next one, when you do submit the track. And again, thanks a lot for being here, Alex. Yeah, please follow Immersed Recordings and make sure to click on the pinned link, which is their latest release, and pre-save it because this is going to be great. If you want to send your demos to demo@immersedrecordings.com, and make sure to like their socials as well, and join me and Alex in our future feedback streams that we are going to
Yep.
have.
Or in any future gigs that we might put on featuring Mr. Crimson, potentially,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Else.
Yeah. For sure. Have a great night, guys. Thank you all for submitting your tracks, and thanks so much for joining in. Until next week, take care.